There is a kind of strength that gets praised in public but breaks down in private. The kind of strength that makes you dependable, calm, useful, available, responsible, and hard to read. The kind of strength that makes everyone say, "She's got it. He'll be fine. They always handle it." But behind that strength, there is often a story no one asked about. A child who had to grow up too fast, a man who was taught that pain makes him weak, a woman who learned that needing help made her a burden, a son who became the emotional pillar of his family, a daughter who became the peacemaker before she even knew what peace was all about. And at some point, survival started looking like personality. You weren't always strong because you wanted to be. Sometimes you became strong because softness was not safe. Sometimes you became strong because no one came. And maybe the hardest truth is this, that you may have been praised for the very thing that was hurting you. Welcome back to Stronger Than Yesterday. I'm Misha Allinger, and today we are talking about something tender, uncomfortable, and necessary. When being strong becomes a trauma response, not because strength is wrong, not because resilience is bad, but because there is a difference between strength that comes from healing and strength that comes from never being allowed to fall apart. And today we are going there. After the last episode, Who Takes Care of the Stronger Ones, I kept thinking about the stronger ones. The ones who always show up, answer the phone, the ones who make sure that everyone else is okay, and the ones who can be bleeding inside and still ask, "What do you need from me?" And I had to ask a deeper question. What happens when being strong is not who you are? What happens when it becomes who you had to become? Because for many men and women, strength did not begin as confidence. It began as survival. It began in a home where emotions were dismissed, in grief and abandonment and betrayal. It began in having to be mature before your time. When life placed weight on your shoulders and nobody checked if your bones were strong enough to carry it. And now, years later, you may be praised for being independent. But deep down, you know the truth. You are not independent because you do not need support. You are independent because needing support once disappointed you. That is a hard truth to face because it means the very thing you call strength can also be the place where you are still wounded. And as you listen to this, I want you to pay close attention to what rises in you, not just what you agree with. What stings? What makes you pause? What makes you say, "I have never said that out loud"? But yes, because that may be the place your story has been waiting to be heard. And if this episode puts words to a part of your life, I want you to know this. You are not dramatic. You are not weak. You are not asking for too much. You may just be tired from carrying so much pain in a way that looks presentable. Here, let me say that again. You may just be tired of carrying pain in a way that looks presentable. Yeah. One of the most confusing parts of being strong is that the world rewards it. You get praised for not needing much. You get admired for holding everything together. You become known as the calm, capable, mature, and the reliable one. But no one always sees the cost. No one sees how many times you were falling apart while you were still being useful. No one sees how difficult it is to be celebrated for strength when that strength was born from pain. There is a compliment that can become a cage. "You're so strong." It sounds kind, but sometimes what it really means is, "We're comfortable with you carrying this." And that is where the wound deepens. Because when everyone sees you as strong, they may stop checking on you. They may assume you do not need comfort. They may forget that your heart gets tired too. They may forget that strong hands still shake. Strong men still cry, even when they do it in silence. Strong women still collapse, even when they make it look graceful. Strong parents still feel overwhelmed. Strong friends still feel lonely. Strong leaders still need a place where they do not have to lead. Strength does not cancel the need for care, and being capable does not mean you are not in pain. Here is where the conversation gets uncomfortable. There is healthy strength, and then there is survival strength. Healthy strength says, I can face hard things. Survival strength says, I must face everything alone. Healthy strength allows support. Survival strength rejects help before it can get disappointed. Healthy strength has boundaries. Survival strength keeps performing until the body breaks. Healthy strength says, I am human. Survival strength says, I cannot afford to be human. That is the difference. And many men and women are living the survival strength while calling it discipline, maturity, confidence, or faith. But underneath it is fear. Fear of being a burden, fear of being judged, fear of being dismissed, fear of being vulnerable and regretting it. Fear that if you stop holding everything, everything will fall apart. So you carry more, you smile more, you explain less, you keep going. You tell yourself, this is just who I am. But is it? Or is it who pain trained you to become? That question is not easy, because once you ask it, you may have to admit that what looks like strength may also be an armor. An armor is useful in battle, but armor was never meant to be worn as a permanent identity. Maybe you know this version of yourself, the version that says, I'm fine, because explaining would take too much energy. The version that gives advice but never takes any. The version that can sit with everyone else's pain but feels ashamed when your own pain needs room. The version that has become so used to being needed that being cared for feels unfamiliar. And maybe even suspicious. When someone asks, are you okay? You do not know how to answer. Not because you are okay, but because you have spent years becoming fluent in silence. If that lands somewhere deep, do not rush past it. That reaction is part of the story. Here are the hard truths, the ones we do not always want to face. You can be surrounded and still feel unsupported. You can be loved and still feel unseen. You can have faith and still be exhausted. You can forgive and still carry the impact. You can be the strong one and still resent how much strength has been required of you. The last one is sensitive, because resentment can be ugly. But sometimes resentment is not proof that you are ungrateful. Sometimes resentment is a signal that your limits have been violated for too long. You may not resent caring. You may resent being expected to care without being cared for. You may not resent your family. You may resent being assigned a role that no one asked you if you could carry. You may not resent your responsibilities. You may resent the loneliness that came with them. There is a difference. And for the men listening, this matters too, because so many men were taught to confuse emotional silence with strength. A man can provide, protect, lead, and still be carrying wounds he has never named. A man can be respected and still feel unseen. A man can be surrounded by family and still have no safe place to break. A man can be told, man up, so many times that he forgets that he is allowed to be human. And for the women listening, this matters too, because so many women were praised for being nurturing, patient, forgiving, and strong until they forgot they were also allowed to need rest, support, gentleness, and protection. A woman can be soft and still be strong. A man can cry and still be strong. A parent can need help and still be strong. A leader can admit exhaustion and still be strong. A believer can say, God, I am tired, and still have faith. Strength is not the absence of need. Strength is the courage to stop lying about what the weight has done to you. One of the deepest traps of survival strength is this: you may start confusing being needed with being loved. That is painful to admit. Because when you're always the one helping, fixing, caring, listening, praying, providing, and showing up, it can begin to feel like your value is attached to your usefulness. So when you rest, you feel guilty. When you say no, you feel selfish. When you cannot show up, you feel like you are failing. When you need help, you feel exposed. And when no one needs anything from you, you may not know who you are. That is not peace. That is conditioning. Because love should not require you to disappear. Love should not only reach for you when there is crises. Love should not make you feel valuable only when you are useful. And this is where healing has to confront a hard question. Who are you when you are not carrying everything? Who are you when you are not fixing? Who are you when you are not rescuing? Who are you when you are not the strong one? For many, that question feels frightening because being strong became the safest identity available. But healing may require you to meet the version of yourself underneath that performance. The version that is tired, hurt, and wants to be held. The version that does not want to be everyone else's emergency contact while disappearing from your own life. And maybe this is the part where you share with everyone. Not because you need attention or want pity. Not because silence has been expensive. Maybe the sentence you have never sent is, I am tired of being strong. Maybe it is, I do not know how to ask for help. Maybe it is, I feel like everyone else comes to me, but I do not know who I can go to. Maybe it is, I look fine, but I'm not fine. If one of those sentences sound like you, that may be the beginning of the conversation you needed for a long time. And maybe after this episode, you send it to a friend, to a spouse, to your sibling, to your parent, to someone safe. Or maybe you write it down first. But do not keep betraying yourself just to keep everyone comfortable. Now I want to speak to the faith side of this, because sometimes in faith spaces, strength gets misunderstood. We hear phrases like, God gives his toughest battles to his toughest soldiers. And I understand the heart behind it. But sometimes that kind of statement can place more pressure on a person who is already drowning. Because what if I do not feel strong today? What if I am tired of battles? What if I do not want to be that strong soldier this week? What if I just want to be held? Faith should not become another place where you have to perform. God is not intimidated by your honesty. God is not offended by your exhaustion. God is not asking you to pretend that the wound does not hurt. Even Jesus in the garden did not perform strength. He said his soul was overwhelmed. He brought his anguish before the Father. He asked for the cup to pass. That moment matters because Jesus shows us that surrender is not fake strength. Surrender is honesty before God. So maybe your prayer does not need to sound polished. Maybe it sounds like, Lord, I am tired. Maybe it sounds like, I do not know how to stop carrying this. Maybe it sounds like, I have been strong for so long that I do not know how to be cared for. Maybe it sounds like, teach me the difference between what you gave me to carry and what I picked out of fear. That is a real prayer. And real prayers do not always sound beautiful. Sometimes they sound like breathing through the pain. There is a cost to always being strong. Your body pays, your mind pays, your relationships pay, your spirit pays. When you never ask for help, you train others to believe you do not need it. When you always say yes, you teach others that your limits are flexible. When you never express hurt, others may assume their actions did not affect you. When you keep showing up empty, you may begin to resent the ones you love. And then guilt follows because you think, I should not feel this way. But emotions do not disappear because you judge them. Pain does not heal because you ignore it. Burnout does not become holiness because you attach God's name to it. Sometimes the most beautiful thing you can do is tell the truth. I am tired. I need help. I cannot carry this alone. I need rest. I need space. I need care too. Those are not weak statements. Those are honest statements. And honesty is often where the healing begins. If this episode is making you think of your own life, I would want to hear this from you. What did strength cost you? Not the polished answer, just a real one. Did it cost you rest? Your voice? Softness? Trust? Did it cost you the ability to receive love without questioning it? That question may open something, and if it does, you are not alone in it. There is someone probably listening right now thinking that they were the only one. Your story might become the sentence that gives another person language for their own. So how does a strong one begin to heal? Not by becoming weak, not by abandoning responsibility, not by refusing to care. Healing does not mean you stop being strong. It means you stop using strength to abandon yourself. It means you learn to say, I can love you without caring what belongs to you. I can support you without losing myself. I can be dependable without being depleted. I can be faithful without pretending I am fine. I can be strong and still receive care. This kind of healing may feel uncomfortable at first, because peace can feel unsafe when chaos raised you. Rest can feel lazy when survival trained you. Help can feel suspicious when disappointment shaped you. Softness can feel dangerous when vulnerability was used against you, a way where you do not prove your worth by sacrifice, a way where your needs are not treated as interruptions, a way where strength includes rest, boundaries, truth, tenderness, and support. That is not weakness. That is maturity. That is freedom. That is the kind of strength that does not just survive. It lives. So to the strong ones listening right now, you do not have to apologize for being tired. You do not have to explain why the weight became so heavy. You do not have to keep being easy to love by being hard to care for. You do not have to carry pain in a way that makes everyone else comfortable. You are allowed to need, you are allowed to rest, you are allowed to be held, you are allowed to have limits, you are allowed to say, I cannot be everything for everyone today. And you are allowed to grieve the years you spent surviving when you should have been supported. That grief is real because maybe no one noticed. Maybe no one came. Maybe no one asked the right questions. Maybe you learned to stop expecting care because expecting it hurt too much. But hear this. The absence of care did not mean you were not worthy of it. The silence around your pain did not mean your pain did not matter. The fact that you survived alone does not mean you were meant to keep living that way. You can honor the strength that helped you survive and still admit that it is not enough for the life you are building now. Survival got you here, but survival cannot be the whole story. Take a deep breath with me for a moment and ask yourself, where did my strength come from? Was it born from love? Was it born from fear? Was it built in a safe place? Or was it built because I had no choice? And what would it look like to let God heal the part of me that thinks I must carry everything alone? You do not need to answer all of that today, but do not run from that question. Sometimes the question is the doorway. Today's episode is not an attack on strength. It is an invitation to examine the source of it, because strength can be sacred. Strength can be beautiful. Strength can help you survive seasons that should not have broken you. But strength becomes dangerous when it teaches you to reject care. Strength becomes dangerous when it makes you disappear. Strength becomes dangerous when it convinces you that your pain is less important and you can still function. So maybe the next level of healing is not becoming stronger in the way you have always known. Maybe the next level is becoming honest. Honest about what hurt. Honest about what you can no longer carry. Honest about the version of you that has been praised, depended on, admired, and drained. Because you are not just here to be useful. You are not just here to be needed. You're not just here to survive. You are here to live. And real strength is not pretending you are untouched. Real strength is saying, I survived it, but I'm ready to heal from it too. If this episode touched a place that you do not often talk about, I want to invite you to something. Share this episode with someone who may always seem strong, but need to be reminded that they are allowed to be human. And if you feel led, send me the sentence. Strength cost me, finish it in your own words. Strength cost me trust, rest. It cost me my softness. Strength cost me my voice. Strength cost me years of pretending I was okay. Your story does not have to be perfect. It just has to be honest. And sometimes honesty is the first sign that healing has started. Thank you for listening to Stronger Than Yesterday. I'm Misha Allinger, and I want you to remember this. You can be strong and still need care. You can be healed and still have tender places. You can survive yesterday without letting yesterday define the rest of your life. You are not weak because you need help. You are human, and you are still becoming. Until next time, may you become stronger than yesterday, not by caring more, but by finally learning what was never yours to carry. See you next Sunday.
Bruise beneath the skin of dawn. A ledger kept where wrong and right are drawn. We learned to walk with shadows in our chest, but light keeps calling us to better rest. I carry names that never fit my soul, hand-me-down guilt stitched into every role. I learned the cost of trading truth for ease, a counterfeit that never gave me peace. The mirror spoke in riddles I believed, till mercy taught me how to be reprieved. I laid the weight where broken vows are healed, and found a strength that wounds could not conceal. Not by forgetting, but by what we choose to answer darkness with the brighter use. We rise, we mend, we aim, tend the fire, not the flame. The past speaks, not commands. We move with cleaner hands. Each scar shows the way, stronger than yesterday. I learned that love is more than how it feels. This bread we break is binding up what heals. A double edge that cuts and also mends. A cross to carry and a call to friends. I gave the anger back its borrowed throne, and crowned the truth I once had overthrown. To serve the least became my hidden art, a quiet revolution of the heart. Not by perfection, but by ordered will. We choose the good when all is loud and still. We rise, we mend, we aim, tend the fire, those who trust can read. I lose the light to find the truer name. I spend my pride and gain a holy acclaim. I empty out to let the grace increase. I die to self and rise in living peace. We rise, we mend, we tend the fire, not the flame. The past speaks, not commands. We move with cleaner hands, no longer bound by sway. Stronger than yesterday. A quiet dawn where mercy writes our story, in faithful steps that bend the arc.